Hello everyone, welcome back. Let's talk about another medium problem on Leetcode today. Pacific Atlantic Water Flow, Leetcode 417. By the way, this is one of the final problems in our blind 75 journey. In this problem, we are given an M by N rectangular island like this one. This island borders both the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. As you can see, the Pacific Ocean touches the island's left and top edges, and the Atlantic Ocean touches the island's right and bottom edges. The island is partitioned into a grid of square cells. We are given an M by an integer matrix heights, where heights RC represents the height above sea level of the cell at coordinate RC. For example, the value 3 in this cell means that the height of this cell is 3, say, in meters above sea level. Now, this island receives a lot of rain, and the rainwater can flow to neighboring cells in 4 directions: north, south, east and west. But this flow of water happens only if the neighboring cell's height is less than or equal to the current cell's height. Water can flow from any cell adjacent to an ocean into the ocean. And our goal is to find all the cells on the island from which rainwater can reach both the Pacific and the Atlantic, which we return as a 2D list of grid coordinates. Let's look at an example to make this crystal clear. Suppose we have this heights matrix. Again, here we have the Pacific Ocean and here the Atlantic Ocean. Now the simplest starting point is these two cells, as they directly border both oceans. So, water can easily flow from here to both the oceans as the height is more than the sea level. So, we add the coordinates, aka rows and columns of these cells 0, 4 and 4, 0 to the answer. Next, let's look at this cell. Water can flow in 4 directions. If it flows north, the height is 3, and water can flow from a higher or equal height to a lower height. So, it will flow and then again up north it has height 2, so it flows further and reaches the Pacific Ocean. But can it reach the Atlantic? Let's find out. If the water flows south, the height is 1, which is lower than 5, so it flows. Moving further south, we reach cell with height 1 and it reaches the Atlantic. For this cell, even flowing east and west will lead to the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. And as water can reach both oceans from this cell, it is part of the answer as well. However, consider this cell. If water flows north, it comes to this cell of height 3. From here, it can only flow east to the Atlantic Ocean. It can't flow west or north, as the heights of the neighbors 5 and 4 respectively are greater than this cell's height. So it can reach the Atlantic Ocean, but can it reach Pacific? Let's find out. If the water flows south, it comes to cell of height 2, and again going south leads to the Atlantic Ocean. It can't flow east because the neighbor's height of 5 is a barrier. Even if it flows west to height 1, that path eventually leads to the Atlantic too. Since rainwater from here can never reach the Pacific, it is not in the answer list. So in the end, all the cells marked in light yellow are the cells from which the water can reach both oceans. Now, in terms of solution, the naive approach is exactly what we did during the example walkthrough. For each cell RC on our island, we would answer 2 questions. 1. Can water starting from this cell reach the Pacific Ocean? And if the answer to it is yes, we ask, can water starting from this cell reach the Atlantic Ocean as well? If the answer to this is also yes, then we add this cell to our result list. And for that reachability check, we can run a standard graph traversal algorithm like depth first search DFS or breadth first search BFS. In the example walkthrough, we use DFS and we would have 2 DFS calls for every single cell, one for the Pacific and another for the Atlantic, making this search incredibly exhaustive and inefficient. The time complexity of this approach would be O of m times n squared, assuming the grid has m rows and n columns. The reason is that for every single cell, we are making two DFS calls. Each DFS could take up to O of m times n time in the worst case, as we may have to traverse the entire grid. So, the total time complexity quickly balloons to O of m times n all squared. The bottleneck here is the repeated work. Many cells will perform similar traversals. For example, when we check cell 33, we might find a path to the Atlantic through cell 32. Later, when checking the cell 32, we would repeat the exact same traversal, and this is what we have to avoid. Let's see how. We already know that the Pacific Ocean can easily be reached via the first row and column. Then, instead of water reaching the Pacific Ocean, like for example, from this cell, if the water can reach these cells, we know that water can easily go to the Pacific Ocean. This is similar to the jump game, where we are changing the destination by making the ocean water come to the cells. This is where we are using a powerful mental model called inversion. We reverse our perspective and flip the question. Instead of asking, can water flow from this cell to the oceans? Let's ask, can water flow from the oceans to this cell? Now, to make the ocean water flow to the cell, we will need to run multi-source BFS or DFS. Let's say we use DFS again, where we use one DFS for the Pacific Ocean and one for the Atlantic Ocean. Here, by multi-source I mean that we need to run DFS from each of these cells and go inwards into the matrix. Also, earlier the water was going downhill, that is from higher or equal height to lower or equal height. But now, since it is coming from the ocean, it has to just go uphill. That is, it can flow from a height which is lower or equal to a higher or equal height, and as a result of each DFS, we will have two visited sets, set P or Pacific reachable set, which may look something like this and contains all cells that are reachable by the Pacific Ocean, and set A or Atlantic reachable set, which contain all cells reachable by the Atlantic Ocean. And the intersection of these two sets are the cells which are reachable via both the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. Now the repetitive work is gone. Here's why. Say I start the DFS from cell 00 for the Pacific Ocean. We mark it as visited and add it to the Pacific reachable visited set P. From here, we can't go northwards and westwards as it is out of bounds. But if we go to east, we come to this cell of height 2, and since this is higher than the current cell, we can move here and we mark it as visited by adding it to the Pacific reachable set. Now from here, say we go further east and visit this cell, as ocean water can also flow uphill to equal height cells, and then we go further east following the uphill rule, visiting the cell with height 3 and go further east to this cell and visit it as well. Now from here we can't go north or east as that leads to out of bounds. If we go south, that is downhill, so ocean water doesn't flow there, and west is already visited, so we backtrack. Now we go south and visit this cell, and this is how the DFS continues. And suppose we have covered all the cells reachable from cell 00. Crucially, this is where the repetitive work is eliminated. Since we are launching a multi-source DFS from every single border cell, we will naturally cross paths. But here's the key. If I start search from a new point like this one, it stops immediately, as thanks to the visited set, I would know if I have already visited this cell, and we just avoid that run. After completing the Pacific DFS, we do Atlantic exploration using the same logic, starting DFS from the bottom and right borders. And finally, after completing both the DFS traversals, we find intersection between the sets, Pacific reachable and Atlantic reachable. Any cell RC where both are true is an answer. This reduces the time complexity to O of m times n instead of O of m times n squared of naive approach. Each traversal starts from the border cells and visits each cell and edge at most once. Therefore, each DFS takes O of m times n time. Since we do two such traversals and then a final scan, the total time complexity is linear with respect to the number of cells. The space complexity is also O of m times n. For storing the two Boolean matrices, Pacific reachable and Atlantic reachable, we also need O of m times n space for the recursion stack during DFS in the worst case. So, overall space complexity is O of m times n. Alright, let's break down the code for the optimal multi-source DFS approach with Java code on the left and Python on the right. First, in our main Pacific Atlantic function, we begin by getting the dimensions of our heights grid, m for rows and n for columns. These will be used throughout our traversals. For the Java code, we also initialize a directions array for north, south, east and west. We then initialize two Boolean matrices, Pacific reachable and Atlantic reachable, to keep track of all cells reachable by water flowing inward from each respective ocean. Next, we initiate our DFS traversals from the border cells, starting with the Pacific Ocean. We iterate through the cells along the left edge by visiting every row R and starting a DFS from the first column 0. Then we iterate through the cells along the top edge by visiting every column C and starting a DFS from the first row 0. Each of these calls effectively launches a wave of water flowing inland from the Pacific, marking every cell it can reach in Pacific reachable. We repeat this exact same process for the Atlantic Ocean, starting DFS from the rightmost column cells and the bottommost row cells, marking all reachable cells in our Atlantic reachable grid. After both the Pacific and Atlantic DFS traversals have completed, our reachable grids are fully populated. The last step is to iterate through every cell in the entire grid once more. If a cell RC is marked as true in both Pacific reachable and Atlantic reachable, we know rainwater from this cell can flow to both oceans. So we add its coordinates to our result list. Now, let's look at the DFS helper function itself. This is where the magic happens. The DFS function takes the current row R and column C, the reachable Boolean matrix, and previous height. Previous height is crucial as it represents the height of the cell from which we just arrived. First, we check the base cases. If the current row or column is out of bounds, if we have already visited this cell, or if the height of the current cell is strictly less than previous height, meaning we've come downhill, we return immediately. In these cases, the cell is not reachable by the ocean water in our reverse flow simulation. If none of these base cases are met, it means this cell is reachable by water from the starting ocean. So, we mark reachable RC as true. Finally, we explore all four neighbors of the current cell. For each neighbor, we make a recursive DFS call. While the Java code uses a loop with a directions array to keep things clean, the Python version uses explicit calls for speed and brevity. both achieve the exact same result. The crucial part here is that when we call DFS for a neighbor, we pass the height of our current cell as the previous height for the neighbor. This correctly enforces our uphill or level flow condition. And that's it. By flipping our perspective and using two multi-source DFS traversals, we efficiently find all the desired cells. I hope this video was useful to you. If it was, please give it a thumbs up and share it with others who might benefit from it. If you haven't subscribed the channel yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you never miss an update. Your support helps me create more content like this. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.